time. The lights here. And I'll let you introduce yourself. I am still Blair. And we produce Grown Up Storytime. This is our first show at Continental Club. We're really happy to be here. We're happy that y'all are here. We were nervous that no one would come, so thank you for coming. We have some things to tell you. If you came in and you don't have a program, we left them sitting on the counter corner, sort of like right when you walk in the door, so if you need a program, just go grab one. We also have merch. There's a live show, we can hear you, we can talk while other people are talking. The bathrooms are in the back and to the left, so, you know, just be polite, be cool. I always get this last one line at the beginning, because it seems to improve all of our experiences. So, there we go. We're also streaming this show, so we're going to say hi to the people, and maybe on the count of three, we can also say hi, everyone. All right, 1, 2, 3. Hi, everyone. Okay, cool. Thank you. I think we should start. Okay, cool. So we're not hosting tonight. Our friend. Ann and Jeannie were both back and here for them. So we all can have a great time. So it's showtime. Like I said before, we can keep our table conversations to a minimum and not scurry about the cabin. I like that phrase. Where just so that everybody can hear the stories and the people at home can hear the stories and they're not like, why do I keep saying excuse me? And then we'll have a good time. Are you guys ready for the first day? Oh, okay, I like that. Okay, bring that back after the next one. It's a story called An Afternoon with My Dad, written by Carol McConnell and read by Monica Marshall. Honest. When I was about 21, I went to visit my dad in San Francisco during the Houston Ballet summer layoff. We met for coffee at a tiny little local shop and talked about our lives. When I admitted to him about my struggles at work and how I knew the director didn't particularly like or appreciate me, he paused for a moment, looked me in the eyes and said, Claire, you have to look at him exactly how I'm looking at you and tell him that you're doing the best you can. That's all you can do. And then at least you know you told him. At the time, I thought this advice and he seemed to be in a good space. He told me to go check out the bathroom, but carefully. as I opened the bathroom door, a light wave of mist embraced me. There were porpoise, epiphytes, and various birds hanging from each corner of the room with small branches like highways and byways connecting each one to the other. I smiled, and he just couldn't help but build a micro ecosystem in every place he lived. Whether it was a terrarium, a saltwater yeah, I guess. I smiled and nodded supportively. He looked at me inquisitively and smiled. I don't think you have. He stepped out of the bathroom to take off his shoes. Then he stepped onto the porcelain bathtub frame. Hey man, my daughter came to say hi. He coaxed in a Jersey accent as he nudged a tiny tree frog up from the shade of one of the plants. And I pointed at him. Oh, is that Louise now? Let's see. He looked at where I was pointing. Oh no, that's Ned. How many reptiles and videos do you have here? I voted. And where did you get all of them? Well, I have 4 right now. They each have their own house, and I'm looking into getting them all a vacation home soon. He explained as he pointed to each large plant. I got them all from work. See, sometimes when we get shipments of plants in from all over, they come with little stowaways. And if I catch them, I bring them here. If I movie we ever saw together, leaving my mom and I in theater alone. I'm sure he moved out when Gary, Louise, and the rest of the gang died, and I bet money it threw him on yet another bender. Now, here I am, close to the end of my old kitten's life, and I'm lost. I feel the relentless urge to run, like my father always did, to pack up, to do the best that I can. Thank you. Thank you to the girls at Monica, Artster, Rita, and Claire Artster. Okay, I was so nervous for our first time to I forgot to model. If you do need to move the music stand up and down, just push it or stand on it and pull it, just so you know. Okay, are we good on that?
that, storytellers, you feel good about that? Yeah. Okay, great, awesome. All right, guys, they were talking earlier about merch, and you should see it if you didn't see it before, because if you didn't know what's on written by Ryan Bruce, and it was read by Joel Ritchie!
How you guys doing? We've all met one. They're not immediately easy to spot. The most standard demographic delineations are no help. It could be any size, shape, or color. It don't matter. But what gives them away is when they speak. 3 words in, and you know. 3 words in, and it takes everything. So I had this crummy, screen so shattered I might lose my fingertips iPhone. And this girl, let's call her Lucy, she had an old one she was selling for $100. It was maybe a generation behind the newest model. Suspicious coming from her, but whatever. I like my fingertips intact. I said I would buy it for her. Immediately, the sale looked like it was bound to fail. Bound just like a 4-year-old iPhone splattering into a planned obsolescence brick wall. While it's supposed to be a simple transaction turned into a Sisyphean undertaking, pushing this girl up, just sell me your shitty used phone like you offered in the first place. No. She kept saying she'd forgotten it, that she stayed the night at her boyfriend's and didn't have time to run by her house before work, that her dog ate her homework and took a big shit on the phone and she was planning to bring on, and so on and so on. I gave up on it, whatever. Not worth the headache. But one fateful shift change, she came up and asked if I had the money. Turned it on, and despite the fictitious dog shit, all seemed okay. Price was right. I gave her 5 crisp 20s. And there we go, a new old iPhone. I have a buddy of mine who knows about these things. Get my SIM card or whatever the fuck transferred over to the new phone, and it seemed to work just fine. Cruise the internet, my apps work. I could send and receive calls and texts. All was well in the world. But a couple days later, I thought it was a little odd that I hadn't received any calls or texts in about a day and a half. Long enough to be suspicious. Anyway, so I go to work, and my buddy, one of the managers, let's call him Stu. Stu asked me why my phone line was disconnected. He'd been trying to call me about picking up a shift. If this girl just pulled some slick shit. No. The lunch shift. Maybe my buddy who knows about these things just didn't know about these things. I gave the man at the store my information, and he told me my service had been cut off because the phone I was using had been reported stolen. Liar! I explained the situation and got it sorted with the man. He confiscated the phone. It took a couple of trips to the AT&T store and several expletives screamed at no one while sitting in traffic on the way to the AT&T store, but I got my service turned back on and transferred back to my new old phone. But I got it done. Now, what to do about Lucy? Here's Lucy in a nutshell. She was 22. more or less untouchable at work. Well, untouchable by management. But by me? A man who can't let a slight go? A man with a state and federally documented Xanax problem? A man with an absolute willingness to lie on my resume for the next job? Slightly more touchable. I did underestimate her though, I'll cop that. She turned what could have been a minor shakedown into some full-blown antics worthy of telling all of you about. But don't worry, you all have a happy ending coming. I saw Lucy at work. I told her about the fuckery at the AT&T store and said, hey, don't worry about it. Just give me back the $100 and we'll be fine. I couldn't even harbor a guess as to how many excuses she came up with over the next few days regarding why she didn't bring me the money. And goddamn, she would be sneaky, heading out after a shift so I couldn't catch her. Like, leave a fake over the course of maybe 10 days. Finally, I was able to corner her in the kitchen. I said, I need this money tomorrow or else I'm contacting the authorities about where I got the phone. She started, I didn't know it was so. I told her, I don't care. My money tomorrow. She agreed. I was going to contact the authorities. It was just $100, but it was the principle of it. And I was tired of getting a slip from someone who still lived with her parents. So, I was working the long shift, she was working the dinner shift. I knew I'd catch her on the way out, so I thought. My friend Stu found me on the floor around 2 o'clock. Knew all about the trouble I was having with Lucy. He had the patient said she wasn't going to be in tonight. Liar, liar, fucking liar. I composed myself, but Stu was still standing there. Clearly there was more to say. Okay, and she read through this. Stu pulled from behind his back what amounted to a piggy bank full of quarters. Fucking quarters. I counted them. $37.50 worth of quarters. Props to her for the audacity. Pulling a move like that would never have occurred to me. But good Lord, I was mad. So, I got her phone number from one of the other servers. I texted her some choice words. I told her unequivocally, I gave you 5 crisp 20s. That's what I'm getting back. She made some bullshit excuse about quarters. Always. Surely you didn't actually go to the hospital, they say to me, curls in hand, like, do I have no shame? But I remember when I told the story to one of my close friends. One who knows me well. He knew the story before. He knew where the story was going before I even got there, saying something like, God damn it. You went to the hospital to harass that poor family, didn't you? So I went to the hospital to harass that poor family. It was after hours and fairly dead. I texted Lucy to ask her what the room number was. Bizarrely, she gave me a number. But don't come up, she texted. My dad needs his medicine, and I'm the only one who knows how to do it. In a hospital like all hospitals. Just lousy with nurses. She texted. But I was seeing red, and I went to check the room number she gave me anyway. Empty. The temerity, the balls, the chutzpah. So I saw her at work 2 days later. By a wonderful happenstance, her parents were even in. Her father, quite decidedly not hospitalized, Lucy started, he got better so fast, the doctor just don't understand. Lucy, I'm going to need you to shut fully the hell up. I'm going to talk to your parents about the money you owe me. And I went to do exactly that. She grabbed my arm before I got there. She begged and pleaded for me not to. She said she'd give me the money. For a few minutes while I looked at her employment file. I know this will surprise you, but personnel information at chain restaurant 123 USA, it's not tremendously secure. And there it was, her address, which, if you recall, was also her parents' address. I wasted no time. Finished my evening shift at maybe 11:30. I headed straight to her house. Off my headlights, half a block of the destination. She wasn't going to know what was coming. I was slipping out the bedroom window on a chain of 9 sheets. I parked, then I texted her. I'm here at your house. Come bring me my money. No way, no way. I got to the front door, composed myself. Bang, 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 ring, 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 bang, 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 bang. I pounded on the door so hard my hands were bruised for a month after. Backed away from the door, stood straight up, and tried my best to channel my inner Boy Scout, praying I could keep a straight face. Lucy's mom beat Lucy to the door. She was in her bathrobe, no curl or a half-smoked cigarette to set it over the edge, but I had clearly woken her up. And thankfully, wonderfully, I could see Lucy behind her on the stairs, looking 22 going on 4 years old. What on earth are you doing here? Lucy's mom and I had met each other briefly at the restaurant once or twice before. Lucy's mom was in shock, disbelief, not the gate. For my part, though, it was transcendent. When I finished giving her my version of the blow-by-blow, Mrs. Lucy's mom told Lucy to wait with me by the door. She would go get me the money. We stood there in the most perfect triumphant silence for a good 40 seconds. Waiting, her squirming, me beaming, magnificent. Lucy's mom came back and gave me 5 crisp 20s. I said, hold on a quick second. I have something to return you to. I jogged to my car. My smile so big it hurt my face. I returned with exactly $37.50 a quarter. These are Lucy's. Thank you and good night.
And also, if you ever need your money back, again, that is Ryan Bruce. He'll get that to you. You can just find him on social media. That's his like new job. Just detective will get my fucking money back. All right, guys, you ready for another story? Okay, next story is called The Stop. It's written by Dr. Rick, and read by Greg Cody.
Good evening, all. My story is super short, so I'd first like to say what a joy it is to be part of Grown Up Storytime. And also, Dr. Rick, I know this is a nom de plume, but if you are here, this story is fucking bonkers, and if you can come and This means I was born female, but later transitioned to male. My pronouns are he, him, and like most people, I have hobbies and personal collections. My hobby is anonymous sex, and my collection is personal effects from my partners. A ponytail holder, a cigarette lighter, a washcloth. Each item is placed in a bag and labeled with a physical description of the owner, along with the date and location of our interaction. A small unit at a local public storage currently houses a dozen boxes containing my growing collection. This story takes place in the summer of 2012. I was a student acknowledgement from a few of our more lucid patients. Cisgender straight men who thought me to be the best of both worlds. One evening I met up with a decently attractive man who lived in a really nice part of town. He was pretty intense, which I liked, but I noticed that every so often he would peek out the windows. He also seemed a little bit confused about the layout of the house. When I asked where the bathroom was, he gave me the wrong directions, and when we were walking to the bedroom, he opened every door until he found the right one. He said he was single and lived alone, but there was a very feminine vibe to the place, and plus there were a lot of family photos hanging up in the home. Later that week, I walked into the day room, and guess whose mugshot was on the big screen TV? The guy. Turns out he was an inmate who escaped from a minimum security prison. He'd broken into the house and was arranging hookups with people he'd met online. The family came home from vacation and found him naked and smoking weed in the game room. Sometimes I wonder who this song actually belongs to.
Alright, your next story is going to be Star Beans, and it is written by Emily.
Alright, I wrote a little something prior to start because my stuff. So I wrote, I apologize for my hilariously large story, and you will see here. We had a little swapperoo last minute, and I'm so thankful that we did. Seems appropriate that my first time back with Grown Up Storytime should be to read none other than Emily's story about the creative folks that we adored and had lost. Oh, and sorry, I might cry. Sorry, not sorry, actually. Fair warning. In my mid-20s, Tim and I began writing Tim was a huge fan of TV and movies and hoped to one day get famous as a writer. I had a more small-time dream and ran a tiny local theater company which fulfilled my artistic hopes and desires. But I loved collaboration, especially with friends, and I loved Tim. He was smart and very funny. And when someone like that wants to work with you on something, you say yes. Starbeams was an intergalactic space station that served as a hub for all sorts of cool intergalactic business, which means that it saw a lot of different species come through the doors and get that hot bean juice. There's one thing that I have come to saw every day. We were both really looking forward to translating the real-life characters that we saw and interacted with at work into larger-than-life, yet still relatable characters on Space Baristas. Regulars can be good and bad. They can brighten your day or immediately spiral it. Same goes for coworkers. But we knew that humor was the way to deal with them best. In real life, and in those stories and quirks were too good not to put on to use for the enjoyment of others. I think that any service industry veteran can relate. The boss was a robot named Ernie the BossBot. We both eventually transitioned into kind of crappy office jobs, and we spend most of our days being each other and sending notes back and forth. So I moved away about a year or so after we hatched this idea, and I never really went anywhere. But I never deleted our chats on emails discussing it, because I'm a Gmail hoarder. Tim died very unexpectedly several years ago. I'll never finish our memes, but I will also never delete our communications about it either. It's a memento to so many special aspects of our friendship. Tim was the biggest sci-fi fan, and meant a lot to me that he would indulge my Star Trek love. I miss him so much. I loved working with him in the stupid coffee shop with him. I loved working on the stupid screenplay with him, and so many other things about him. Maybe there's not a heaven, but there's definitely endless open space. And we evolved from stardust, and somehow, having worked on a script about a life in space that never went anywhere makes me feel closer to him and connected. And I plan on hanging on to that forever. Thank you.
Guys, give it up for Emily. Thank you, Tim. I love it. Alright, are you guys ready for your next story? Next story is called Dictator Be Damned, and it was written by Amir Alpert, and it was read by Shane Taylor.
Disclaimer, this story was put together from pieces my father told me, pieces Wikipedia told me, and the missing pieces that I put together while drinking scotch. Enjoy. Dictator Daniel Moi was the most corrupt and brutal leader that Kenya has ever known. He had a touch for biblical violence when he ordered 386 unarmed civilians stoned to death. He butchered the innocent as he murdered more than 5,000 villagers in the massacre of 1984. And he oversaw a personal torture house in the heart of Nairobi that was filled with political protesters. And in the spring of 1983, dictator too many adventure books as a child. Imagine Indiana Jones with a yarmulke. Given his experience in the army and a brief stint at a busted agricultural business, he was able to find construction work with a group of local expatriates. Their company feasted on grants from the International Monetary Fund, which had taken an interest to see Africa develop under the hand of capitalism and away from the foot of communism. Now, my dad was a pain-in-the-ass employee, and when an off-site project to build a dam required a lead engineer, he was assigned before he could ask too many annoying questions. So So he kissed my sister on the forehead, said goodbye to my mother, and called for his driver, Benjamin. Traveling some of the first modern My dad slept the entire ride. Upon arrival, they were confronted with notifications of who this job site belonged to. The Internal Ministry, number 1. Number 2, Ministry of Agriculture. Number 3, Ministry of Defense? Whatever. And my dad walked away smiling into the build site while the seasoned chauffeur, Benjamin, stood back and definitely did not smile. Benjamin knew that the president himself would be watching their work and that his fate was linked to my father, a man exiled for his lack of interpersonal skills, a man who routinely overestimated his grasp of Swahili. 100 yards ahead, Benjamin ran to catch up with my dad, inspecting the work done so far and seeing a mere pile of sand and rubble in the middle of the riverbanks. My dad minced no words, screaming. Understood, if not for his use of big snake to describe the river. To a soldier from the Ministry of Defense, he unleashed his choicest rebukes as he laid into their poor condition of their World War II era equipment. You would have just as good a chance at winning a war with this as you would at building a dam, except I know you never could win a war. My dad now asked Benjamin to translate for him, to translate to this very large man with a very large handgun. Benjamin did not smile. With no want and no choice sick to his stomach, Benjamin was now promoted to permanent translator. 3 weeks into the bill, after the Forsaken Benjamin had translated an endless array of Benjamin never broke eye contact with the oncoming convoy. His jaw dropped to the dusty earth. What is it, Benjamin? It's him. The president. Maui. Benjamin said with a tone usually reserved for a man about to meet his mother-in-law. My dad grinned between the draws of his cigarette as he now lived those childhood adventure books firsthand. The Range Rovers stopped less than 100 feet from the build site, perfect precision. 2 men in crisp, clean black suits came out of the SUV, and from each additional vehicle, 5 men exited. As a man in a black suit began walking forward, 2 men in brown suits fell behind him, and then 3 behind them, and then 4, and then 5, until a pyramid of military precision, 7 rows deep, formed, marching always at the speed of the man in front. The President of the National People's Republic of Kenya, the beloved leader of the nation, the powerful supreme chief, to which all tribal chiefs bow, the head of state, which leads all other heads of state, as there has never been before and never will be again, the great President Daniel Maui, one of the men boomed. As if connected by a tripwire, a great scream emerged from behind the president, as the remainder of the pyramid cheered together. Benjamin led my dad into the expected bow, head down, waiting for the president to signal that they could look up. And with the formalities in order, and Benjamin contemplating his future, my dad led the president around the site. The president spoke the entire time about the Pan-African nation that he'll lead, about the size of Kenya's growing military, and the fact that President Ronald Reagan could be his secretary if only he spoke Swahili. By blind, dumb, or beginner's luck, Dad and the president returned in good spirits. Tragically, the president's black boots were heavily stained by the dirt path. And without words, the second man in black knelt without thinking for a moment. He gave his answer. 50 million gallons. There was silence. 1 Kilimanjaro, 2 Kilimanjaro. 50 million gallons? The president inquired with a stone face. Ndio, my dad answered confidently. Yes, in Swahili. The president was speechless, stoic, his eyes stared to the earth at this white foreigner. Maji mengi erupts in Swahili, Benjamin translates for my dad. It means, like a lot of water. The whole pyramid of men, not moved since they arrived, cheered, Maji mengi, Maji mengi, Maji mengi! No. As Maji mengi. How did you know, sir? How did you know how much? And my dad turned and walked away, and he winked at Benjamin and said, easy, I made it up. Maji mengo. He walked back to the build site, and here's Benjamin, in a loss of professionality, yelled, you made it up? He will kill us! 4 weeks later, and the first concrete has been poured with the rock generated from a makeshift quarry. Benjamin had perhaps forgotten his doom when suddenly another dust cloud seen from another 7 brand newer black Range Rovers. Once again, the pyramid of men, the introduction and the tour, and the wardrobe change, and again, the same question. How much water will the dam hold? Maji mengi! Louder than before, the entire pyramid erupted. Maji mengi! Maji mengi! For even louder and longer, and their screams were deafening the machines in the quarry. And again, they leave, and Benjamin screamed, what are you doing? You said 50 million gallons before. To build that still! Nothing will happen, Benjamin, because Maui is a fool. We walked together and I talked to him, and I could understand that he knows nothing about dams. Nothing. About anything. He is a fool. Benjamin's eyes closed as he accepted his fate and knew that either my dad or President Maui was definitely a fool. So he kneeled down and prayed. His beloved question. As much water as the Mediterranean Sea, my dad boomed in response. There was no pause as President Maui grabbed my dad's shoulders and pulled him to his chest. Maji mengi! They screamed together, now jumping up and down with the truth. Even Benjamin jumped up and down, realizing that perhaps the president has no clothes. The dam is now solid shape, it's reached completion. The Ministry of Defense informed my father that there would be, in 2 days, an inspection of the President's National Dam. That night, fresh rain poured and the ground was drenched as it seemed like the natural chamber. The dust formed as the motorcade arrived with 7 brand new Black Range Rovers. A pyramid of men with shiny boots. Without a doubt, my father gave His Highness a tour of the completed dam. As they approached the riverbanks, freshly nourished with a night of heavy rains which also hit the mountains, which funneled to the river. The dam held back the raging waters of a small stream. Apparently, one night of rain does not make a flood. Where is the water? The president asked. Realizing that the response was beyond his Swahili, my dad looked at Benjamin, and Benjamin looked away. My dad smiled at Benjamin, and Benjamin shook his head. The president was emotionless. The animals? And how much water would there be if not for the animals? My dad smiled at Benjamin. Enough water to fill the Nile. Twice! Benjamin yelled. Majimedi! The president now released hysterical laughter like a scream, and everyone was shouting their favorite phrase, and they danced in an elaborate celebration. And finally, there was a national dam truly fit for this national president.
Okay, so if you look on your program, if you got one, there's a bunch of other things you should check out around town. Every second Tuesday, we're super glad that we get supported by Gus. But there's this other really cool thing that also goes on around town called Neo Benchy. And if you haven't heard about it, it's so fun. And you should check it out. It's like PJ Sports Bar. And they don't have like a regular schedule yet because they're just kind of coming back. But you can follow them at Neo Benchy. That's BENSHITV. And get their schedule. Their next show is August 23rd, which is next Tuesday at PJ Sports Bar. It's people like redubbing videos. It's very funny. It's very fun. You guys should definitely check it out, so make sure you do that as well. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can do that too. And there's a QR code where you can put that on your program. So do that after the show. Keep your phones away.
For going to Australia alone was to prove to myself I could. That and escaping a town and a relationship that was only causing me pain. I didn't want to stare behind my fence at the new townhome my ex of 6 years had moved into to make sure I was okay. In fairness, he moved in with a mutual friend who just happened to have an empty room, but the looming threat of a casual pass on the sidewalk was always there. 6 months into all of this awkwardness, he started dating a much younger girl, and I gotten a new job offshore. It never made sense to any of my friends why I became an engineer. Talk about who we were and what we did. my friend came, and I proudly announced, I work on a boat in the Gulf of Mexico. I'm on time off, and this is a thing I have never done. I caught the eye of a pale-skinned, freckled face, slicked back hair-having guy across the way. My initial assessment was that he was about my age and honestly pretty attractive. My second internal assessment was, girl, stop! You came here to be by yourself. Leave it alone. By the time the proverbial talking stick landed on him, giggles had broken out with the drunken English 18-year-old girls sitting. Bored holes into my eyes. But of course, I was here by myself. The tour guide began a rant about how the Australian sun and how the sunscreen we brought from our native countries would not cut it because of the hole in the ozone layer. The blisters that had risen from the tops of the super nice hole from Gloucestershire's feet were a testament to that fact. Everyone who wasn't from Australia, literally all of us except for two brothers traveling together from Adelaide, which is a whole other story, ran to the shop in the bottom of the hotel we were staying in. I was first. Ever since I realized I love the water but hate the sun, I have It was the boy from across the circle. Sunburn he already had? I looked at him, looked at the bottles, and said, "It's a little late for that, huh?" And walked away. He sort of just stood there. I paid for my sunscreen and walked upstairs. There were about 5 days in between the current stop and our foray into the Great Barrier Reef. I won't bore you with the details of my bungee jumping at a running leap into the falls, or how we shared mimosas at 10 a.m. overlooking a fog club in another Gold Coast town, but God, when we made it to the sailing trip off the Barrier Reef, that was really when I knew I was done for. Half the tour was splitting off while the other half did the 2-day sailing trip. No bags, no booze to buy. Jump off a boat in Australia in the Great Barrier Reef without fear of dying from tiny, microscopic jellyfish? Fuck a man of war. These things will make you feel like you're done. You know what else does? 2 days at sea, without a shower, baking in the heat, and water. Water everywhere without a drop to jump into for fear of suffering a grisly death. In great pirate fashion, what we did have was all the alcohol we came on board with. As soon as we docked our sailboat in a bay, the captain abandoned ship and went to see a mate in the stayed up, just drinking and talking, everyone leaving one by one. I didn't mean to, but I broke into another passenger's black label, and we sat at the back of the boat, staring into the light shining into the water. Oh, I wanted so badly to jump in. We talked and talked and talked. I completely spilled my guts and ended up crying about 4 hours in, telling him I never wanted kids. It was narcissistic and completely not my style. One of the reasons my ex and I had broken up. He told me that he had a tumor in his brain. He showed me the drill holes in his skull and said he had an eating disorder. Obviously, I continued to cry. We ended up sleeping on the deck that night, not touching, just looking up at the stars as it slowly drizzled. Again, fast forward a few days, we are in Surfer's Paradise, the worst place in the world to learn how to surf. I would know, I tried, and sat down about 30 minutes in. Even the hot Peruvian instructor couldn't force me back out with that surfboard trying to murder me at every go. It was my last night with the tour. Everyone was moving on to Sydney, and I was taking a flight to Melbourne to see some friends for Australia Day. The last place we stayed was huge. There were about 6 girls to a room, and I think about 30 girls on the trip. It was really as prompt to be shared. They immediately drew straws to decide who had the internal room with a door, double bed, and balcony. 2 guesses who won. The entire group went out to a super trendy disco, but eventually all the people above 29 ended up at an Irish bar in a party town. He's Irish, so he was in his element. He also wasn't supposed to smoke, but the 3 British elderly women I was sharing a room with bought a few packs to split. One of my favorite memories of Surfer's Paradise was dancing along to a Spice Girls song on the Saturday Night Fever themed dance floor. After the dance break, maybe do while smoking. This was slightly the days before Uber, so we called a cab for the group traveling to Sydney the next day, and the people leaving for Melbourne carried on. He stayed. He was going on to Sydney, but he stayed. So did one of the Adelaide brothers. All of my self-mantra about needing to be alone attracted more than one person, but I was completely unaware. The 3 of us ended up at another spot, and the second Mr. Adelaide went to the bathroom, without speaking, we ran away from the bar. Together, locked eyes, and bolted. I woke up completely confused, looking for my suitcase, afraid to miss my shuttle to the airport. I ran to pee in the large shared bathroom and stubbed my toe on some stupid doorstop in the middle of the floor. My only injury in the 2-week stay in Australia. Taken down by a fucking doorstop. We hugged, said our goodbyes, and I left. 2 years later, we took a road trip of the Gulf of Mexico and dated long distance for 2 more after that. I cheated a lot. And he was mad. He didn't answer.
So we're going to do a question. We're going to question out there. How many of you, this is your first time ever coming to Grown Story Time? Take it from the end. we're so happy to have you. Also, the next story is our last story, but if you're not been hanging out, like I still want to hang out, we're all going next door to Shoeshine Charlie's for something that originally I thought Blair told me. Are you guys ready for your final story tonight? Okay, last one is called The Last Biscuit, and it is written by William Hudson and read by Brad Cassidy.
Oh, it is dark back there. The Last Brisket by W.D. Hill. Birth and revival clogged my heart in an appreciation for inspire me to try my hand at it. So in that spirit of resurrection, I felt it was fitting to finish this barbecue story. It's more relevant now than it was back then anyway, for reasons I'll get into later. You may be aware of the barbecue renaissance Houston has seen over the last several years. If not, I feel called to educate the vegetarians and uninitiated meat eaters alike that a new day has dawned in this fair city. A day of fine smell. The appetite. A lot of good stuff out there. But some of my favorites are Coy Viet Tex and JQ's Tex-Mex Barbecue. Both of them reflect Houston's rich cultural and culinary landscape, and both of whom I met through Willow of Hate Tank Productions and Willow's Texas Barbecue. Willow once held weekly pop-ups at Grand Prize Bar. And if you listen to the story, you've probably been to Grand Prize Bar. If not, I feel called to educate the few upstanding citizens in this or so I thought. I met Willow many years prior when my city high school heavy metal band started really putting ourselves out there. In a former life, Willow was a concert promoter in Houston's then substantial punk and hardcore heavy metal scene. And for years, he would bring many of my then favorite bands to town. He even occasionally let us perform as the opening act. And like so many of my crusty musician buddies of that era, I feel I have him to thank for countless stage opportunities none of us would have been granted otherwise. One of these crusty musician friends is the second main character of this this room combined. He too has a great respect for Willard and his barbecue, as we often would share a softball on those Sundays of thunder. Willard's timeline word spread far and wide of the gift of Willard's meat candy from the dive bar back room, and before long, there was a line stretched across the bar every Sunday. Well, that's when we were on to something. And the time eventually came for Willard to outgrow the old Grand Press bar. The sight of the final pop-up flyer hit hard, like the passing of a loved one. The crowd grew larger and larger every Sunday, so we knew Willard's last coming was going to be nuts. Jasmine, Willard's right-hand gal and side dish sage, is a member of our little motorcycle shop, so you know, being all shiny, and we're not trying to eke out some preferential treatment. I mean, for all I knew, this was it. Done. With no known plan to pop up elsewhere in the future, I might add. Alas, they're beyond Scott getting orders out, worried there won't even be enough as is. A small group is heartbroken, but before long we resign to the reality of the situation, agreeing that we're happy for them selling out so easily. Oh, biscuit hurt my leg, Big Daddy. I immediately called Bullshit, asking if he really even wanted like everybody else. He says, nope. I just sent him a message on my own, told him to save me one. Again, I called Bullshit. This bar is packed with people trying to pay top dollar for a slice or two. They're all going to learn out. And we think he's just going to earmark an entire brisket for you just because he told him to? Shit, motherfucker. Yep, he says. I have to. Brandon asked me to go down and help him inquire about his brisket, as if he needs the extra muscle. So I followed him down, like a hard game. When we reached into the bar, again, he sidles up to me and says, wait here, Big Daddy, before he goes to disappear in the small back room of the kitchen. Now, Lemon's been kicked into that bar more times than we can count. And God only knows what he's doing back there, and how the hell he needs me to back him up. After 10 or 15 minutes, I bailed. This this all the fixings, a whole loaf of bread, pills, the whole deal. Let me try it. I'm pretty sure I cried. The entire bar had resigned to the fact that they had missed the boat. And it had. Only for this side of the son of a bitch that the mayor was willing into bringing the entire boat at the 13th hour to then publicly march with that thing off gassing through the bar like it's a fucking I don't know how he did it. If maybe Will had a whole list of reserved biscuits for people who he held on to long after a curtain call, if it really was the last biscuit, and Brandon knew some horrible secret that he hung over with his head, maybe he just went to sent back there and threatened everyone with the butcher knife. I don't know. All I can say is, we were the only ones out there with such a feast that late in the game. Fortunately, that wasn't Willow's last pop-up. And it wasn't his last biscuit. Not by a long shot. Hell, that brick and mortar was still under construction, and I was eagerly awaiting the grand opening. Well, it's been open for a while now, but earlier this year there was a falling out of sorts. That's another story, and not one for me to tell. But for several months, Will and Jasmine were out of commission, and I was left with a similar sinking feeling to the days following that fateful Sunday at Grand Prize. Uncertainty, worry, hunger. Still, even then, I tried to wrap this up on an optimistic note, one in which carnivores or otherwise, there's a lot. Resigned to the complete possibility that there may simply be no more brisket. And when the night is long and we admit defeat, saying, hell, maybe there isn't even anyone behind that curtain, I propose that just maybe someone is back there, working harder than ever, on a scale you and I may never fully comprehend. I can't say, but I do take comfort in the possibility that they do, in fact, hear our cries and want